The stars above the Imperial fleet shimmered like cold diamonds, distant and uncaring. Admiral Kareth stood at the center of his command deck, watching the holographic map that displayed the quiet sector of space. It had been calm for years, too calm. His fleet, composed of 40 cruisers and 3 dreadnoughts, floated in tight formation, guarding the Empire's border against a threat that most believed was extinct. Humanity. Kareth didn't believe that. He had fought in the human wars a century ago, when the Empire had first encountered the strange, defiant creatures from a blue planet. The humans had refused surrender even when their worlds burned. They had fought with impossible courage, even as their fleets were shattered. And then one day they were gone, vanished into the void. The Empire claimed victory, but Kareth remembered their last transmission. "We'll return. When we do, the stars will remember us." Those words still haunted him. The command deck was silent except for the soft hum of the energy cores. Officers moved quietly, speaking in low voices. Nothing unusual appeared on the scanners, yet something in the void felt wrong. Kareth's scales itched with unease, a primal instinct his kind had never learned to ignore. "Admiral, Sector 12 reports unusual gravitational readings," said Commander Thrain, his second in command. "It could be a cloaked asteroid or something trying not to be found," Kareth finished quietly. He walked closer to the hologram. The readings were faint, almost hidden under cosmic background noise. But Kareth's sharp eyes detected a pattern, too clean, too deliberate. His heart began to pound. "Focus all sensors on that region," he ordered. "Amplify quantum signatures." The officers hesitated. "Admiral, that sector is empty space, and do it!" Kareth barked. The lights dimmed slightly as the ship's systems redirected power to deep space scanning. The air thickened with tension. Then, slowly, an outline began to form on the display, massive, angular, and completely still. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then the hologram resolved and the bridge went silent. It was a ship, but not like any Imperial ship. Its hull was black as the void, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. Its size dwarfed even the Empire's dreadnoughts. Strange markings glowed faintly along its surface, ancient letters that no one had seen in living memory. "By the stars," Thrain whispered. "What is that?" Kareth's throat went dry. He recognized the shape, the configuration of the cannons, the proud, defiant lines of its design. His claws trembled as he spoke. "It's human," he said. A murmur of disbelief filled the command deck. Officers turned pale. Some laughed nervously, thinking it a mistake. But Kareth's expression silenced them all. He zoomed in on the image. The markings were clear now. Bold letters across the dark hull read, "UHS Vengeance." And below it, the ancient Terran insignia, a blue sphere wrapped in wings of fire. Thrain swallowed hard. "But Admiral, the humans are extinct. This must be a trick." "Extinct?" Kareth whispered. His gaze locked on the massive ship. "Then tell me, Commander, why do I feel its guns watching us?" At that moment, the void trembled. Space rippled like a disturbed pond, and a low vibration filled the fleet's sensors. The human battleship was decloaking, its form becoming solid, real, terrifying. Every ship in the Imperial formation began receiving unknown transmissions, ancient communication codes long erased from history. "Signal coming through," shouted the comms officer. It's an open channel." Kareth nodded slowly. "Play it." A burst of static filled the air. Then a voice, deep, human, and filled with calm confidence, echoed through the bridge. "This is Admiral Isaac Hale of the United Human Fleet. You have trespassed in human space. Identify yourselves or prepare to be fired upon." The sound of that human voice sent chills through the crew. They had been raised on stories of the savage, fearless species that once defied the Empire's might. To hear one now, alive, commanding a ship like that, it felt impossible. Thrain's voice trembled. "Admiral, what are your orders?" Kareth didn't answer immediately. His mind raced. If this was truly a human battleship, then everything the Empire believed was a lie. Humanity hadn't died. They had waited, rebuilt, evolved. "Hold position," Kareth said finally. "Do not provoke them." The crew obeyed, though fear hung heavy in the air. Kareth stepped closer to the viewport, staring into the endless dark where the Vengeance now floated like a silent god. "So, you finally returned," he whispered to himself. For the first time in his long career, Admiral Kareth felt something he had never felt before. Not pride, not anger, not even hatred. He felt fear. And in the cold vacuum between stars, the humans waited. Their vengeance had arrived. The bridge of the Imperial flagship was frozen in silence. Every officer stared at the dark giant on the screen, the UHS Vengeance. The ship floated with quiet menace, its surface rippling with faint blue energy, like a beast waking from a long slumber. No one dared to move or speak. Even the soft hum of the ship's systems seemed quieter, as if space itself held its breath. Admiral Kareth stood tall, but his eyes betrayed his turmoil. He had fought many battles, faced countless enemies, and crushed rebellions across the stars, but this was different. This was the ghost of a war he thought was buried, and it had returned. "Admiral," Commander Thrain whispered nervously. "What do we do? They're hailing us again." Kareth's jaw tightened. "Put them through." The voice of Admiral Isaac Hale once again filled the command deck. Calm, steady, human. "Imperial Fleet, you are within restricted human territory. You have one chance to withdraw. Failure to comply will be seen as an act of aggression. No arrogance, no shouting, just pure confidence, the kind that came from knowing you held the power to destroy everything before you." Kareth drew in a slow breath. This is Admiral Kareth of the Circan Empire. Humanity was believed extinct. Yet here you stand. What is your purpose? There was a pause on the channel. Then the human voice replied softly, almost sorrowfully. "Extinct? No, Admiral. We survived. We endured. We left your war behind, but we never forgot who started it." The crew shifted uneasily. The human's tone wasn't one of revenge, it was heavier, filled with deep memory and pain. Kareth straightened. "We did not seek this confrontation. Our patrol entered this region under standard orders. We were unaware this was human space." "That's because your maps are outdated," Hale replied. "The galaxy has moved on while your empire stayed the same." Kareth's claws dug into his palm. "You speak boldly for someone outnumbered 40-1. "Outnumbered?" Hale chuckled. The sound sent a chill through the bridge. "Admiral, tell me, do you think numbers ever mattered to humanity?" Then without warning, the Vengeance released a pulse, an invisible wave that rippled through the void. Imperial sensors went wild. Shields flickered. Engines stuttered. Every screen flashed red. "Energy surge. Massive power output from the human ship," shouted an officer. "Shields to maximum," Thrain ordered. "Admiral, they could destroy us." But Kareth raised a hand. "Hold your fire." The energy wave wasn't an attack, it was a warning. The Vengeance had merely flexed its power, showing restraint. It could have vaporized half the fleet. Instead, it stood still, letting them feel the difference. The comms officer turned pale. "Admiral, I'm detecting smaller signatures appearing all around us." "What kind of signatures?" "Human ships, sir. Dozens of them." Kareth looked at the holomap as new shapes began to appear one by one, decloaking around his fleet like ghosts materializing from the dark. Sleek, silent, and deadly, each ship bore the same insignia, the blue sphere and wings of fire. The humans weren't alone. The realization hit the Imperial crew like cold water. Their fleet wasn't the hunter, it was surrounded. A deep unease spread across the bridge. Officers whispered prayers. Some refused to believe what their eyes saw. But Kareth knew. The humans hadn't vanished in fear. They had gone into the shadows to rebuild, and now they were back, stronger than ever. He turned his gaze back to the main screen where the Vengeance loomed. "Admiral Hale," he said slowly, "if you came for vengeance, then strike. But understand this. I will not surrender my fleet without honor." The human's voice softened again. "We didn't come to destroy you, Kareth. We came to warn you. Your empire is not ready for what's coming." Kareth frowned. "What do you mean?" "Something far worse than either of us is rising beyond the galactic rim. The old enemy that nearly destroyed us both. The difference is, humanity remembers how to fight it." Silence filled the room. The human's words carried weight, something ancient and frightening. Kareth felt his heart sink. "You expect us to believe you came to warn us? After what your species suffered at our hands?" "We remember everything," Hale said quietly. "The fire, the loss, the betrayal. But humanity learned something in that darkness, that survival means unity even with old enemies." The transmission cut off. The Vengeance powered down its weapons, leaving the fleet in eerie stillness. Kareth stood there, breathing heavily, his mind spinning. The humans had returned not for war, but for something larger, something terrifying. And for the first time, Admiral Kareth realized that the fate of both species might be bound together once again. The silence after the transmission felt endless. Every officer aboard the Imperial flagship waited for Admiral Kareth to speak, but he said nothing. His eyes were still fixed on the dark outline of the UHS Vengier. Even humans fear. Do you believe the lies of a defeated species? Var sneered. NCU, that ancient ghost of human strength now alive and real before them. The humans had come not as conquerors, but as messengers. Yet their words carried a chill deeper than any weapon could create. Something far worse than either of us is coming. Kareth finally turned away from the viewport. Prepare a secure channel to the Imperial High Command, he ordered. They must be informed immediately. Commander Thrain hesitated. Admiral, do you believe what they said? That there's another threat out there? Kareth's gaze softened. When a ghost from 100 years past warns you of a storm, you listen. Moments later, the holographic form of Grand Regent Var appeared on the bridge, a towering figure wrapped in silver armor, his expression cold and proud. Behind him stood other high-ranking officials, all radiating authority and suspicion. Kareth, Var said sharply. We received your emergency signal. Explain yourself. Kareth stood at attention. A human battleship has appeared within our patrol zone. Designation UHS Vengeance. They demand our withdrawal and claim this region as human space. Var's eyes narrowed. Impossible. Humanity is extinct. I thought so too, my lord, Kareth replied quietly. But they live, and they are far stronger than before. The officials murmured among themselves, disbelief spreading like fire. You're certain? One asked. Kareth nodded. Their power is beyond anything we've seen. One ship disabled our entire fleet's sensors with a single pulse, and they have more ships cloaked around us. Var's tone turned sharp. Then destroy them. Erase this insult before it spreads panic across the Empire. No! Kareth's voice cut through the air like a blade. The officers around him froze. No one dared shout at the Regent. Var's eyes glowed with fury. You forget your place, Admiral. Kareth stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. If we attack them, we die. They didn't come to fight. They came to warn us. Something else is coming from beyond the galactic rim, a threat. The Kareth clenched his fists. They are not defeated anymore. They have rebuilt in silence, and if what they say is true, then the entire Empire is in danger. Var leaned forward, his expression dark and dismissive. Enough, I'm sending reinforcements. The humans will be captured and their technology seized. You will hold them in position until our dreadnoughts arrive. The connection ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in heavy silence. Thrain looked at his admiral with worry. If we hold them here, it will look like we are stalling for attack. Kareth nodded grimly. Exactly what the humans will expect. He turned back toward the viewport. The Vengeance still hovered there, unmoving, patient, like a predator watching prey decide its fate. Kareth opened a private channel to the human ship. Admiral Hale, he said quietly. The Empire has ordered me to hold you in place. Reinforcements are coming. There was a pause before the human's voice answered. I expected as much. Your leaders still think in the language of fear and power. Kareth exhaled slowly. If I do not obey, they will strip me of command. But if I follow orders, it will start a war we cannot win. You have a choice, Kareth, Hale said gently. You can be the spark that saves your people, or the one that destroys them. The words cut deep. Kareth looked around at his crew, young officers who trusted him, soldiers who believed he would lead them home. He could not let them die for pride. He straightened, making his decision. Commander Thrain, he said softly, prepare a transmission. Inform the Vengeance we are standing down. Tell them. The Circan Empire will listen. Thrain blinked in shock. Sir, that's treason. Kareth's voice grew quiet. No, it's survival. As the message was sent, the Imperial fleet slowly powered down its weapons. Across the void, the Vengeance responded in kind, its weapon arrays dimming, its engines humming softly. For the first time, peace existed between them. Then Admiral Hale's final message came through, calm, solemn, and filled with weight. You've made the right choice, Kareth. Now prepare your people. The darkness we once faced is coming again, and this time, it will not stop at humanity. Kareth stared into the endless stars. He felt a strange mix of dread and respect for these humans, these survivors who had once been enemies but might soon become allies. The old stories were wrong. Humanity had not perished. They had endured, and now their warning had begun. The stars outside glowed faintly, casting long shadows inside the Imperial flagship's bridge. The crew was silent, their thoughts heavy and uncertain. They had just done the unthinkable, lowered their weapons before an enemy once feared across the galaxy. But Admiral Kareth stood firm, his gaze locked on the massive human battleship floating before them like a silent guardian. The UHS Vengeance emitted a low hum as its systems stabilized. Across the void, small bursts of light flickered, other human ships repositioning themselves, keeping a respectful but cautious distance. They were watching, waiting, as if measuring the Empire's next move. Kareth broke the silence. Commander Thrain, establish a secure link with Admiral Hale. No recordings, no open channels. This conversation stays between us. Thrain nodded, still hesitant. Yes, sir. Moments later, the human's face appeared on the holoscreen, stern, calm, with tired eyes that spoke of countless battles fought long ago. Behind him, the bridge of the Vengeance was alive with quiet activity. Human officers monitoring data streams in efficient silence. Admiral Kareth, Hale said, his voice steady. I didn't expect you to listen. Kareth crossed his arms. Neither did I. But if what you say is true, then both our species are standing on the edge of something far worse. You have no idea, Hale replied. The thing we're facing doesn't care about borders, races, or empires. It only consumes. We call it the Holotide. The name alone made Kareth's stomach tighten. Explain. Hale brought up a projection. It showed a vast area of deep space, completely dark, no stars, no signals, only emptiness. We first detected it 50 years ago, Hale said quietly. A region of space where light itself disappears. Ships sent inside never return. Whole colonies vanished overnight. At first we thought it was a weapon, but then we realized it was alive. The Imperial officers around Kareth stared at the image in disbelief. A living void? It sounded impossible. What does it want? Kareth asked. Everything, Hale answered. It feeds on energy, on matter, on life. It doesn't conquer. It devours. We lost 12 worlds before we even understood it wasn't a natural phenomenon. The Holotide isn't just spreading, it's accelerating. In a few decades, it will reach your borders. Kareth's heart pounded. The idea of something capable of consuming entire systems was beyond comprehension. Why tell us this? Why warn your old enemies? Hale's expression softened, his voice quieter. Because the first time we faced it, we were alone. Humanity barely survived. If it reaches you, it won't stop there. It will spread through your empire, and when it's done, it will come for us again. We can't fight it alone this time. The words carried pain and sincerity that no lie could mimic. Kareth felt it, the heavy truth in the human's tone. Admiral Hale, he said carefully, you're asking for something dangerous. My government doesn't trust you. They will send more ships soon. I know, Hale replied. That's why we need to move before they arrive. You're a soldier, Kareth. You understand how slow politicians are when it comes to survival. Kareth gave a small nod. He understood all too well. What do you want from me? He asked. Data, Hale said simply. We've been tracking the Holotide's movements for decades, but we need access to your deep-range sensor arrays. Together we might find where it began and maybe how to stop it. Kareth looked at his crew. Some were frightened, others uncertain. But beneath that fear, he saw something else, curiosity, hope. He turned back to the human. If I agree to this, I risk my command, my life. And if you don't, Hale said softly, you risk your entire species. The silence that followed was heavy, but Kareth's decision was already made. He had seen empires rise and fall. Pride had always been their downfall. Not this time. Very well, he said. You'll have your data, Hale. But if this is a trap, Hale smiled faintly. Then I suppose you'll finally get your war hero's ending. Kareth couldn't help but chuckle bitterly. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. The channel closed. For the first time, human and Imperial ships began exchanging encrypted signals. Not weapons fire, but information. As Kareth watched the data streams flicker across his screens, he felt something strange stir in his chest. Not fear, not anger. Something he hadn't felt in decades. Respect. The humans had survived when they should have perished. And now they were offering not vengeance but warning. As the vengeance slowly turned toward the stars, leading the way deeper into uncharted space, Admiral Kareth whispered to himself, maybe they were right all along. The UHS Vengeance and the Imperial flagship drifted side by side in the silent darkness of space, two enemies bound by an unspoken truth. The void between them was no longer filled with hatred, but with the quiet tension of fragile cooperation. Owing through the comms, the humans have returned not to fight us, but to save us. You may call me a traitor, but I will not stand by and let pride destroy our species. The hollow tide is coming for all of us. If you still serve the Empire, then serve its future, not its arrogance. For a long moment, there was only static. Then slowly, one by one, ships began to power down their weapons. First one cruiser, then another, and another. The tide was turning. Admiral Hale's voice came through softly. You just changed the course of history, Kareth. Kareth allowed himself a weary smile. History is nothing without those who dare to rewrite it. Outside, the stars seemed to burn brighter as the once divided fleets drifted closer together. Humans and Imperials exchanged encrypted codes, linking their systems and forming a united network. Together, they began plotting a course toward Ilaris Prime, the origin of the hollow tide. But deep inside, Kareth felt the weight of his decision. He had betrayed his empire, yet saved it at the same time. He could never go back. Thrain approached quietly. Admiral, the fleet is aligning with us. They're following your lead, but what happens when High Command learns of this? Kareth looked at the stars, his voice calm and distant. Then they'll come for me, but by the time they arrive, we'll already be gone. The human channel opened again. Hale's face appeared, lit by the soft glow of his bridge. Our path is set, Kareth. Once we enter Ilaris Prime, there's no turning back. Kareth nodded slowly. Then let's finish what our ancestors began. As both fleets jumped into hyperspace, streaks of light filled the void. Weaving together like twin rivers of destiny, human and imperial, bound by a single purpose. For the first time in centuries, enemies became allies. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, something ancient stirred, waiting for them to arrive. The stars of Ilaris Prime burned with a ghostly blue light as the united human Imperial fleet exited hyperspace. Before them hung a world that looked wrong. The planet's surface shimmered like liquid metal, covered in vast swirling clouds that pulsed with strange energy. Every few seconds, flashes of red lightning spread across the atmosphere, as if the planet itself were alive and angry. On the bridge of the UHS Vengeance, Admiral Hale stood beside Admiral Kareth. For a brief moment, both men were silent, staring at the monstrous beauty before them. Hale broke the silence. That is not a planet. It's breathing. Kareth nodded grimly. Ilaris Prime was once the cradle of Imperial civilization. Now it's their tomb. The hollow tide feeds on everything that was left behind. A wave of energy rippled from the planet strong enough to shake every ship. Warning lights flared across the fleet. The sensors screamed. Countless life forms, all moving, all heading toward them. Thousands of signatures. Thrain shouted. They're coming straight for us. Hale clenched his jaw. All ships prepare for combat formation. Shield frequency Gamma. Let's show them what happens when humanity stands with its allies. The order rippled through space like thunder. Human and Imperial ships formed a massive battle line. Steel giants standing shoulder to shoulder. Blue and red energy beams lit the void as the hollow tide swarmed out of the planet's upper layers like a storm of metal and flesh. They weren't ships. They were living constructs, screaming, twisting things that moved like nightmares. Fire at will. Hale roared. The void erupted in light. Explosions painted the darkness. Human railguns tore through the first wave, while Imperial plasma cannons followed with scorching precision. The enemy screamed but did not stop. For every one destroyed, 10 more emerged. Kareth gritted his teeth. Their numbers are endless. We need to find the core. Agreed, Hale said. If we destroy the heart, the rest will fall apart. Thrain's eyes widened as he studied the readings. Admiral, there's an energy spike, deep under the planet's surface. It's generating all of this. Kareth turned to Hale. I'll take my flagship in. You hold the line. Hale shook his head. You won't make it out alive. Kareth smiled faintly. You humans taught me something, Hale. Sometimes, the only way to save everyone is to be willing to lose yourself. Before Hale could argue, Kareth's ship, the Imperial Honor, broke formation and dove toward the planet. Engines blazing, Hale shouted after him.
Kareth, don't you dare die on me!
But Kareth was already gone. The Imperial Honor plunged into the swirling clouds of Alaris Prime, its shields glowing red-hot from the heat and pressure. Lightning struck its hull, tearing pieces away. Inside, alarms screamed and consoles exploded. But Kareth stood firm, hands gripping the controls, eyes fixed on the glowing heart deep below. Through the smoke, Thrain shouted, "Admiral, we've breached the core chamber." On the screen, the hollow-tide source revealed itself, a massive crystalline structure pulsing with red light, alive and aware. It looked almost like a brain, fused with machinery. It turned toward the ship as if staring right into Kareth's soul. A voice echoed through the bridge, mechanical yet filled with emotion. "You cannot stop evolution. Flesh and machine must become one." Kareth narrowed his eyes. "Then let this be your end," he gave the final command. "Overload the reactor." The ship began to tremble. Energy built up faster than any shield could contain. Thrain looked at him with tears in his eyes. "It's been an honor, Admiral." Kareth smiled softly. "No, Thrain. The honor was mine." And then the Imperial Honor became a star. The explosion tore through the planet's crust, ripping apart the core. The hollow tide screamed in pain as its connection shattered. All across space, its swarms froze, their lights dimming one by one. On the UHS Vengeance, Hale watched the readings drop to 0. His throat tightened. He whispered, "He did it." Silence filled the bridge. Every crew member stood still, their faces lit by the fading light of Alaris Prime's destruction. Commander Rain placed a hand on Hale's shoulder. "Sir, the hollow-tide is gone, but the Imperial Honor," Hale's voice was quiet. "He saved us all. Every species. Every world. That's how legends are born." He looked out the viewport, watching the planet collapse into a glowing ring of dust. "Admiral Kareth of the Empire," Hale said softly, "humanity will remember your name." As the fleet drifted in silence, the stars around them seemed brighter, as if the galaxy itself was honoring the fallen. Human and Imperial ships flashed their lights in unison, a silent salute to the Admiral who defied an empire and saved 2 civilizations. And though Kareth was gone, his words echoed through every ship, every heart, and every world that survived. Courage is not born from strength, it's born from choice. The war was over. The hollow tide was no more. And from the ashes of destruction, a fragile new alliance was born, one that would reshape the galaxy forever.